Hey, it's LSFT here today, and today we're looking at the new 2023 RX. And we're going to look at this in comparison with the NX. Really wanted to see what the difference between the two vehicles are, and if you are a potential buyer of the NX and waiting for your vehicle, will you consider the RX as the alternative? Maybe you wanted the new Lexus interface and couldn't wait for the RX, and now the new RX is here with the new Lexus interface and really the new chapter of Lexus. So let's dig a little bit deeper onto the new RX, and then let's do a comparison with the NX to see what is the biggest difference. And will you give up your NX order and now move on to the RX? So one of the biggest chain differences in the RX is that the design of the spindle grille has now changed. It is now considered the spindle body. First, looking at the spindle grille, you would notice that the grille has been changed. On the top of where we have the spindle, it's now covered with a piece of, I would say, plastic material that covers up some of the spindle grille and now becoming the spindle body. You will also see that the headlights are a little bit different from the NX. The triple beams are on the top, whereas the NX is on the bottom. They both have fog lights and cornering lights as part of the design. And as part of the new RX, this is the F Sport 500H. And on the NX portion, we were looking at the normal version of the NX. So to be fair, I'm going to show the NX F Sport version so that way you can do a side-by-side comparison. You can pause the video to actually look at it in greater detail. The overall look doesn't look that much different, but that spindle body does make the RX a little bit more unique. Since we showed off the new F Sport, now this is the premium package where the grille is different, is a different design. You see that they have these small dots, or I would say triangles or diamond shapes, where it was showed the grille itself, and then on the top where we have the spindle body, it's actually now those diamonds become a hole or become solid as it approaches higher onto the hood. When you look at the side where we have the fog lights and the corner lights, you would see that that design is very similar to the normal NX2. As we panned over to the doors, the side doors, and the side mirrors, you will notice that the design isn't that much different. What is carried over is the C-pillar, where you have that blackout, making it look like there's a floating roof. As we zoom out, you will actually get to look at the full vehicle, and just by looking at it, you know it's an RX. So now we look at the rear of the vehicle. You will notice that the RX is more muscular. It's a larger vehicle because the back window is much wider, and overall the design are very similar. You would see that the light bar is one continuous light bar with the side backlights, as in the NX is actually two different pieces. A lot of people say that the NX was an afterthought, having where they spelled out the word Lexus, because they changed their design strategy midway when they were designing the NX. And now, as part of the RX, that was designed from the ground up, having the words Lexus spelled out with the light bar. So what do you think? Which one do you like more? Leave on the comment below and let us know. Which vehicle do you like more from a design perspective? Looking at the interior, you will notice that the steering wheel, the shifter, the 14-inch display, even the instrument cluster is exactly the same as the NX. So there is definitely a lot of reuse, or a lot of the same parts that are shared between the NX and the RX. There are definitely some differences. You see the ambient lighting is different, and also you would see that the cup holders continuously have the RX signature where the cup holder can go up and down, and also you can see that the door trims are different. It also has the push button exit, the safety exit assist buttons, so that has also changed. You also see that they have a thigh support on the passenger seat. I'm assuming that is also available on the driver's side. NX owners, when they look at the RX, will see that they're very familiar with the layout and even the parts that are used. But I do expect that the RX will be using higher quality materials throughout the cabin. So here we show the current NX cabin, and we're going to do a side-by-side as much as we can to show the differences between the two. You would see that the shifter, the cup holders, even the 14-inch screen where the vents are coming out below, overall design are very similar in the NX and the RX. When you look at the steering wheel, it is exactly the same steering wheel, and also your dash is also similar. Overall, I do like the RX passenger side where there's a little bit more texture, a little bit more design, and also that ambient lighting just right in front of their face. Also, the door trims are much seamless as in the RX. It doesn't look like it's just bolted on. You see that the speaker and the sides are very seamless, integrated into the trim. You can see that the NX has a 40-60 split in the rear seats, whereas in the RX, they have more flexibility with a 40-20-40 split. You can't do a comparison without looking at the comparisons of information that we've received from Lexus and comparing it with the NX, the previous generation RX, and the new generation RX. So here we have the NX, and then we have the previous generation, and we have the new RX. So when you look at it, the NX starts at an NX 250, and it goes all the way to the NX 450h Plus. The previous generation of the RX starts at 350, and it has a hybrid of a 450h hybrid. And now, the new RX starts at the base of an RX 350, and it goes all the way to the RX 500h F Sport Performance. So there are some similarities here. You do see that the RX 350 is quite aligned with the NX 350, especially when you look at the powertrain. And then also the RX 350h is also very similar to the NX 350h. And then similarly, the RX 450h is similar to the NX 450h. Lexus North America has not released information about the RX 450h Plus. However, UK and Europe has launched the RX 450h Plus, so that's where I got some of the information about the RX 450h Plus. So let's look at this in greater detail. So you see that the NX 350 uses a 2.4 liter turbo engine, same as the RX 350. The only difference really is that the NX 350 is only available in all-wheel drive, whereas the RX 350 is available in front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. In Canada, all-wheel drive is standard. There is no front-wheel drive. But when you look at the consumption, it's 9.5 liter for the NX versus 9.8 liter per 100, and also 25 miles per gallon versus 24. So the RX is a little bit heavier. So even with the exact same powertrain, you do see that the performance from a fuel consumption is uses a little bit more gas. Even when you look at 0 to 100, you see that the numbers are off by probably half a second. So you do see that difference there. The 350h Plus also uses the same engine, but you do see that the RX 350 has 6 more horsepower. But looking at fuel efficiency, a 39 mile per gallon versus a 33. So it's about 6 miles per gallon difference. And 0 to 100 or 0 to 60, you do see a 0.2 second difference. Then the NX 450h Plus versus the RX 450h Plus. you do see that the horsepower is about 2 horsepower less. But then the 0 to 100, I did find out that it's 7 seconds versus 6.2. So the vehicle is definitely much heavier. And looking at the information that we receive in Europe, it also has the 18.1 kilowatt battery. So from a MPGE standpoint, I would definitely see that the RX will have probably less range in EV, probably around 30-ish. Don't have information about it, but definitely it would be less. And then we have the brand new RX 500h F Sport Performance. So this is the second F Sport performance vehicle that's available in the Lexus lineup. The IS 500 is one of the other ones, and it's really supposed to be more of a sportier version. So the RX is now into the more sportier, and one of the most unique thing about this RX 500h is that it's a hybrid vehicle without a CVT. So this has a 6-speed auto transmission using the 2.4 liter turbo engine. It does output 367 horsepower with 406 pound-feet of torque. Also, it does have the direct 4 all-wheel drive, which was first introduced in the RZ 450e. And looking at the fuel consumption, it's 26 miles per gallon or 9 liters per 100, which is not bad for a vehicle that can have 367 horsepower. And then from 0 to 100, it reaches 6.1 seconds, and 0 to 60 is 5.9. So when you look at this, the RX 500h is not that much faster than the NX 450h Plus. And mostly it's because of the weight of the vehicle and the size. So now we turn back to the original 2022, the previous generation, and goodbye the V6, right? Because now the new one uses an inline 4 turbo. But you can see that from a performance standpoint, the RX 350 has 295 horsepower with an 8-speed automatic. And you can see from a fuel consumption, it's about 1 liter difference, or 2 miles per gallon improvement. And when you look at performance-wise, the vehicle actually performs better in the new turbo engine. And then when you compare the 450h, I would assume that you would compare that with the 450h Plus. And when you look at that, horsepower-wise, they're very similar. And from a fuel efficiency standpoint, we don't know because we don't have this information. But from a performance from 0 to 100, it's a 7 second versus 7.9. So the 450h Plus will definitely match the current 450h hybrid. A lot of you would say, why compare the NX with the RX? They're two different classes of vehicles. And you're right, they are different. You definitely have more room, more capacity to store stuff, and it's a bigger vehicle. But again, some people would actually want to upsize and consider the RX versus the NX. So when you look at the overall length, you do see that the new RX is roughly 9 inches longer. It is also 2.2 inches wider. Height-wise, it's also roughly 2 inches taller. But the biggest point is the wheelbase. You actually get significant wheelbase, more room between the wheels. It is 7 inches wider. So having more space for the cabin, more space for your passengers. Even when you compare that with the last generation RX, you would see that the overall length is very similar. There's not big of a difference. And when you look at the width, it's also about 1 inch wider, and it's actually a little bit shorter in height. But also the wheelbase, you still see it roughly 2 point something inches a little bit more wheel space. So that meaning you get 2 more inches of cabin space. And then when you look at tires, base as 19 inches, and then the F Sport or the upgraded is 21 inches. Whereas in the previous generation, it's 18 and 20. And then the NX, who also grew up, is now 18 and 20. So you do see that the NX has taken the shoes of the old RX, whereas now the RX has gotten bigger shoes. Another thing is the biggest upgrade is also the LSS, the safety system. Now we're using a 3.0, so which matches exactly the same as the NX. So there we have it. The spreadsheet information, and hopefully I'll get more information about the RX 450h Plus. Just been going around to other websites and press releases trying to get more of the information so that you can see it all in one place. So now we look at the press release that came up from Lexus UK. Because the North American market has said that they'll provide more information with the RX 450h Plus plug-in hybrid later on. I do not know if they're going to increase the battery or do more to it, but at least here we do have some reference of the RX 450h Plus so that we can get a little bit more information about it. We know that in UK, they will not be having the RX 350, the gasoline-only version. It looks like they only have the 3 electrified powertrains, which is the RX 500h, the 450h Plus, and the RX 350h. So let's go down and scroll down and just see a little bit more information about the 450h Plus. I think that's the one that we want to compare with the NX. So you do see here it does say it's a 2.5 liter plug-in powertrain, and 0 to 62 miles per hour, which is 0 to 100, is 7 seconds. And it's 302 bhp, 225 kilowatt, which is 300 and whatever it was, 300 horsepower. So we do see here they explained a little bit about they expect this version of the RX to be the best seller, and that the acceleration is about 7 seconds. They don't have much information about the EV range, but they're saying that it will be around 40 miles, and they're still waiting for that information to be provided. So there we have it. There's not a lot of information, but at least it does provide information like the 18.1 kilowatt hour battery pack, so which means it's exactly the same as the NX. So before we wrap up, I'm going to be displaying some videos of the new RX, but really want to ask you, will you pick this RX over the NX? Do you like the new grille or the spindle body? And will you give up your NX and order an RX and wait another year? Hopefully a year and not more than a year. Let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please remember to comment, like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. You can also press that bell icon to get alerted when new videos are out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers.